Greetings and welcome back to SmartWatch Ticks. We're a YouTube channel on the web at smartwatchticks.com. Today is the big square off between the two trailblazing flagship smartwatches on the market at the moment. In this corner, we have the Kospet Prime. It's a revolutionary, very large, beautiful smartwatch competing now face-to-face with the KronosBlade Genesis. The Genesis, a very large screen watch too compared to all the others. This is the heavyweight class we're doing. And some revolutionary additions of a new power dock that you can wear, a front-facing camera. The Prime has a side-facing camera, and they both have forward-facing cameras for doing selfies. So, we're going to just jump into this thing and talk about it. Let's look at the Prime first. We've got a regular dock that connects through a micro SD connector here, and you simply slap this thing on the back of the watch, magnetically couples, and it'll charge up. We'll get the peripherals out of the way. The Genesis now has something completely different. This has a battery in it, and it's about the equivalent size battery as in the watch. So it's a booster dock. And this is how you charge it. You basically place the watch in here. It turns on automatically the battery backup, and it'll start feeding juice to the watch. And its connector on this end is a standard USB-C connector, like all the new modern watches and phones are going to be coming with, as opposed to the older version of the charging connector that you find on this one. Well, you ready for the contest? Let's see how they weigh in. Let's turn on the scale. Let's get it all calibrated. And the Kospet Prime with bands weighs in at 84 grams. The Genesis, on the other hand, with its leather band, weighs in at 68 grams. Interesting. What about sizes? This is where there's a big difference. You can already tell by looking at them side by side that the Kospet Prime has a bigger screen. It's slightly larger, but it is larger. And overall, what does that mean? Well, Mr. Caliper, let's check it out. We're going to zero this. We're going to open it up. We're going to give you your widest dimension across right at the edge as being 55. We're going to call it 54.82. I don't know if you can see it there. Millimeters. And the Kospet Prime, that same dimension, you notice the bump is on the other side, 55, coming in at 55. From top to bottom now, on the actual inside section, the Prime is coming in at 53 and a third, and we're looking at 53, they're basically the same, 53 and a half. So overall, lengthwise, they're about the same. Now, point something interesting out to you. Do you see this little bump on the bottom on this one? And you see that same bump up here and down here? The bump is so that you don't have the flat tire on the screen. That's where they house the wires that otherwise would have to be in the screen. So both of these screens, as you're about to see, do not have a flat tire. Oh, guys, I forgot what some of you would say is the most important measurement of all. That's the thickness. So sorry about that. I'll insert it here now. By the way, I changed bands on the Genesis, as you see later on in the video. This is after the fact. Thickness-wise, we come in at 18.02, and that's crossing that little upper bump area as well, right there. 18, basically, and here, on the Prime, as I zoom in on it, wow, 18.13. So despite outward appearances, they are, for all practical purposes, identical in their thickness. Okay, I'm going to turn them on. I've got them set up so that they'll boot at the same time so we can watch the boot up process. 1, 2, 3, press. Hold, hold, hold. There they go. Out of the chute was the KronosBlade Genesis first, but the Kospet Prime is coming right along. They now you can really see the screen size difference. I'll measure those exactly with the calipers for you here in a second. As it's booting up, make note that when you wear these, the camera is going to be on the inside. Ah, there they go. Now this one I have the audio suppressed. I want you to hear the sound on that one. What's going on in the back of this one, and we can turn it on again later. And it may be changing, is some thunder. You got lightning and thunder and all that stuff happening. This one is already past the logo and booted up. There you go. Now notice the time down in the lower left-hand corner and how many seconds it's taken between the two for this one. And this one's now doing its circle there. Now it's up. So it's a little longer for the Genesis to boot than it is for the Prime. Now what I was mentioning is on this one, the camera is on the inside. And this is a design, and this particular watch I've worked quite a bit in the evolution of it as well. It's a result of feedback in the fact that if you're doing front-facing video, when your camera is over here or on the top, you tend to have your fingers in the way if you're doing something on the screen of being able to see it. You've seen that in the reviews. So when you put this one on, and it's got the slightly smaller screen, this is what it looks like on a pretty much average male arm. When you put this one on, with the camera bump on the other side, it is a bit larger. It looks like you're really wearing a watch. Yep, and again, the camera bump is here, and the actual side camera is here, so you have to be careful about your hand when you're using it. And you all know that the camera is on the top here, so there's no issue with anything being in the way when you use the camera. I know I'm biased. I really like a lot of the design improvements of this one. However, there are some advantages to this one. If you like that larger screen capability, you definitely have it on this one. Let's flip them over. Woohoo! All right. The backside shows and reveals, of course, the 4-pin charging. Interesting thing that both of them are good at. It's suppressed, so it's not actually touching your skin. This has 3 levels. You've got this bump at the top, then it comes down to a circle around, and then the actual charging is recessed. So it gives you more breathing capability and less likely to get too much sweat on these connectors. This one has a big bump in the middle and then a secondary level that the connectors are on. The distance is wide enough that it seems feasible your skin could probably be touching on here. I like the fact that this is a little more suppressed in here. Let's do some more measurements. We have bands on these. These are coming in on the Genesis at 22, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 22 millimeters here. And this one is, aha, look at that. It's larger. We are looking at 24. Yep, 24 millimeters on the Prime, 22 millimeters on the Genesis. Now, the thing about the bands is, of course, that they're removable. And I'm going to pop them off of here because we're going to play with the watches directly for the rest of this. There we go. That just switched out of its screen. And yeah, I'm touching them all over the place. Same thing for here now. Quick release tabs. Off of here and here. Wow, I just did my nails yesterday. Not a good idea before a video. Okay. Okay, they're both back now. In addition to the bands that come with the Genesis, it comes with 2 other sets of bands. Black with the sewing, leather on the outside, rubberized on the inside, breathable, with the pin falling out of it. That's actually falling out of this one. This is the one it ships with, which is a very breathable. Those holes actually go all the way through. Very soft band. So you're getting, and this will have a quick disconnect on it too. This was the prototype version, but you won't have the pins falling out. They'll be quick disconnect just like this. You get 3 different sets of bands with the Genesis, which is an additional thing to consider, especially when we start to talk the price, and the price is a bit more for the Genesis than it is for the Prime, but there are all sorts of goodies that come along with it, like that charging dock, and it even includes a set of earphones with a power bank as part of the whole package. The Kospet, you basically get the dock, the charging wire, the one set of bands, and that's what you've got. Okay, screen diameter actual. I'm going to try to grab this here and show you edge to edge. We're looking at about 41 millimeters. I know you guys are normally in inches on this and millimeters on everything else. Comparatively now, can you see that in here? This is what the screen would look like, just a little bit larger, right? So if I slide this down now and capture edge to edge on the screen here, about 39 millimeters. So it doesn't actually measure out that much difference, but it is quite a bit different overall when you have it on your arm. All right, let's switch to watch faces for a second. The Kospet faces, you saw that last one actually was branded with them. They don't have too many branded faces on here. There's Christmas on this one. They've got a Christmas face because the firmware was actually updated on Christmas Day of 2019. Another Christmas face. I'm just going to show you highlights of them. The other videos you see close-ups of the whole faces actually on the screen. This one's a useful one, I find, with the high contrast for easier view outdoors, although the display isn't really set for outdoors, which is another major difference between the two. And here we go. Now this one is an animated face. This does not come with the watch, but it's an example of the new animation technique that's in the clock engine that's been updated through firmware on this watch. The Genesis at this time does not have the animated face capability. It has the complications, active complications capability, where if there's buttons, you can touch them and you can go into different things, and we'll see that on here. But it doesn't do the animation yet. It should just be a software fix, and this is an early prototype, so I wouldn't use that as a decision factor on whether you get it or not. These faces here that you're seeing, and I'm going to come back, these are special new ones that have been designed by Alrod that are going to be baked into the firmware, so when it's shipping, you'll have these kind of faces. This looks like an active animation, pretty much, but Alrod was able to compose that with the basic clock engine, including jumping the time around. Really creative work, analog digital face. This will probably be the main stock face. You see you've got a couple of other interesting faces here with Genesis branding. And just to give them equal time, I'm not going to go through every face. I do want to stop on this one, though, and show you that you do have the active buttons that you can touch and get into different things. Calendars, all that. This will also ship with the Google Calendar instead of the funky little calendar that most of these watches come with. If it doesn't have the Google Calendar installed directly, you can easily add it from the Google Play Store, and when you do, this particular face, you can launch the Google Calendar directly from it. And so forth and so on. You got some more creative faces in here as well, and that was the one we were just showing you earlier. Here's another one. And then it gets into some of the other faces that Alrod's made. But these are the ones that are actually stock with the, or will be shipping stock with the Genesis. Now let's switch to look and feel, basically. We have the same operating system, Android 7.1.1, in both of these watches. The Genesis uses an older implementation of the overall look and feel, while the Prime has been updated to a fancy, colorful layout. Here's the first screen you get that typically shows whether or not you have a SIM card in. I do have one in here. I do not have one in there, and whether you're Bluetooth connected, your battery level, all of that stuff. Here's a difference in how these circles appear. All of your icons for doing all these things, and they're clearly identified. GPS, you can tell that's airplane mode. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and so forth. So I really like the way Prime has updated the appearance of their icons overall. Your cleanup is pretty much basic here, and it's a little more colorful on this one. You have a built-in music player, and one more swipe takes you to weather in your area, and they're identical with Fahrenheit and centigrade on both of them. Your notifications hasn't changed. They're over here, and when you swipe up, you're getting into your step count. I have been wearing this one, so you've got some data on here. And then, of course, your basic daily stuff. It's a little bit larger font on the Prime than a thin font on the Genesis, but that's just a implementation of the older versus the newer way of representing it. When you slide over here, you get into the app drawer, and this is in the ARC mode. I do want to show you that if I come down into settings and I go to app list style, and I come down into settings and I go to app list style, we are in style 1 on this, which is the arc on that one, but I can switch to bubble or style 2. And what you see immediately is the style 2 on the Genesis is black and white. Everything is black and white instead of color. That's partly because of the transflective screen. This, of course, is much easier to see outdoors in the bright sunlight. That's one of the big distinguishing factors of this, in addition to the forward-facing camera, is that you can really easily see this outdoors. So they chose, instead of the bubble thing, to go to a black and white or color description or demonstration of the icons, whereas this one goes to the fancy Apple implementation, where you can slide around and see all of your icons as little circles. Some people like it one way, some like it the other. It's just kind of up to you, but you don't get the black and white version on here because there's no need. This is not brightly visible outdoors without cranking the brightness way, way up, which reduces your overall battery life. This one you can turn your backlight to nothing. You can turn it all the way down and it'll still be good and bright, so you get longer battery life using this outdoors, but you get really bright, vibrant colors with this one. So I'm going to switch us back now, and we'll page our way through the apps. One thing you may have noticed is a little white dot on this one, not on this one. That is not part of the watch. This is Floating Toucher. If you saw the video just before this one, I think, or recently, you'll know about display brightness and Floating Toucher, two apps that I recommend you put on these watches. This one's got it. You touch that little button, and it's going to bring up this little circle, and it's all explained over in the video on that. I just haven't implemented it on here, so it's not a defect of the watch or something that comes with it extra. It's an optional. So here we are. You got the app drawer. They're pretty much the same. The first three have to do with calling, and you need a SIM card for that. You've got settings. Now, on this one, you've got the face unlock as an extra thing listed right here. Face unlock is available on the Genesis. It's just you have to get to it through settings. These guys have just additionally brought it forward. But folks, you can't use Face Unlock unless you set up a basic lock with a password in case Face Lock doesn't work. And then after you set that up, you can actually turn on Face Unlock option. But you can get in here and you can activate or deactivate it quickly if you want it to work or not. Again, Face Unlock relies on the forward or front-facing camera, the one pointed at you, to be able to get the information it needs to unlock your watch. It works great on both of them. It's just fine. Right now, there's no browser on here. Well, at this location, we have Chrome, Google Chrome installed on the Genesis as opposed to the kind of basic Chinese browser that comes on this one. You have a download section. Of course, you can add any browser you want to. You have your clock And there's a calendar listed on here. And again, we're going to allow Google Calendar to be installed on the Genesis. And it has the same name as Calendar. So for those of you who have ever tried to put Google Calendar on a watch that comes with Calendar, you know there's a conflict and it's really complicated to try to do it. You have to deactivate this one first and all kind of crazy stuff. So expect that you'll probably not have a calendar on this one, or you'll have the Google Calendar pre-installed on the Genesis when it ships. Your clock is just basically all the things that you do with the clock. The camera, when you launch that, you get the front-facing or side-facing or top-facing camera. We've shown you a lot of stuff on the cameras in the actual videos. Music and a sound recorder are all the same. File manager and heart rate monitor and fitness. Now, fitness I want to talk a little bit about. On the Genesis, you have the ability to swipe over and get into the fitness. You don't have that on the Prime. When you do that, notice this, when I come into it, I get a basic thing, and there's no dots at the top. I can just set up my basic parameters that I want, target duration or time or whatever, and start it directly from here. However, if I go into fitness from here, which is the same as going into it from here, you notice I got the dots at the top. And now I can go over and you can look at your historical things that you've done already. And when you go into them, you get data and you have all of the data reported there. And you have the option to go to a historical track, which is your map of where you went set against a Google map. And it's really cool. And it works the same on both of them. And you have one more swipe where you can turn on or off the GPS positioning. So both of these watches are using the advanced version of the fitness app. In addition to that, the Genesis also has a quick access to any of these by just swiping over. But you're not going to get all your historical data and other stuff unless you go into the app itself. Little tricky, but there you go. Voice search, Google Play Store, Maps, all the rest of this stuff is the same. There's the Assistant. Here's Chrome coming up. That's your browser on this one. Assistant is where you tie into the AWATCH 2 tethering app. You can do that with the Connect the Phone right here. And then, of course, you have all these different controls and things that you do. They're identical across the board as well. And that's about it. Calculators, calendars, all these other things are stuff that I've installed in here. And system optimization on this one is stuff that you can get to in the settings that you do over here on this one or this one. It's just that they've been brought forward for you to get to a little bit easier. So I guess I should run back quickly and just show you some of the settings stuff, just so you're familiar with this and know what to do. When you're in settings, they're all basically the same. You want to come down. Now this has measuring, so does that. That changes from British to metric for all your stuff. You have your power savings and all of this, date and time, uninstalling apps, and more. And it's inside of more that you get into all this stuff on Google Play services. By the way, you see the fonts that are different size. On this one, on the Genesis, it's shipping with an app installed that allows you to adjust the size of the font. I like it a little bit larger, so I've made it 125%. That's not here, but you could download the app from the Google Play Store and do the same thing. It's just a nice little feature. Someday we'll do a video on that if there's enough interest in it. Here's your screen lock. Here's your face unlock. You see, they both have all of the same stuff. The app freeze, your RAM, notifications, data server, all of that stuff's identical. It's just on the Prime, it's been brought forward in a couple of places with the icon for face unlock or for the what do they call it? Down at the bottom, system optimization. Yeah, but they're the same thing you get into from more in settings. Just you can get to it quicker. Okay, that is a look at the comparison of the apps. Well, I want to show you a couple of more differences between these two and then give you my final impressions on them. But before I do, I just wanted to reflect on how far we have come in smartwatches. This is a Thor 4 Dual equivalent. It's called the LOK02, very similar to that watch. 2 cameras, front-facing camera at the top. Now we got them in all places, the left, the right, and the top, right? And then the side camera, of course, all of them have had the side camera until the Genesis. But what I miss is this always time display option. It's not on either of these, not that same implementation with this really soft analog watch. I miss it and I don't because it's really too dim for outdoors and it's too bright often at night indoors. What I do like is that ability to create always time or always on digital display that we just covered recently in another video. So you're not going to find always on type display like this. It literally is always on running in the background on these. What I really do love is this flat. You can set them down flat and you can remove the bands. We had so many of these watches come out like this with fixed bands, the antennas in them, non-removable. If you break the band, you break the watch. There's no replacements. So kudos to the designers for really coming up with better design. But just to give you the real look and feel, you can see this could work as a women's watch or a guy's watch. Try to get them about the same distance from the camera. The 1.39-inch screen is standard on a lot of these older Android watches. And this is the typical look and feel of these watches until these bigger ones came out. The Genesis is a bit of a bump up on that, but not a huge difference. The Prime takes it to a whole new level as a really big watch. And of course, there's the Lympho LEM-T, which is 2 full inches diameter, and that thing is humongous. So you've got different sizes, and that's one of the things you may want to think about is how big is your arm, what's the sizing, and how's it going to look. None of these are showstoppers, but they're little factors to consider. Here's something that stands out on the Prime right now as a limitation on the Genesis. To do this part, I need to get us over to the camera app. And there's our Chinese gourd for 2020. I'm going to take a picture of this right here. Okay, have you got your gourd yet? I mean, with the coronavirus and everything going on, I hope you are seriously feng shuiing your house. When you double tap, you can zoom in, and you double tap again, and you can zoom in, and you double tap again, and it comes out. That's going to be the same thing on the other watch, except, watch this. When I'm here and I take 2 fingers, I can zoom in. It's called a pinch and zoom technique, and you can go really far in, way beyond what you could get with the triple tap. Okay? But you do have that tapping capability. Right now, till we do a firmware update and verify it can be upgraded to this level, you do not have the pinch and zoom on the Genesis. Not a showstopper, but it's nice to see the pictures that way. For this one, to come over into the camera, I have to turn it sideways as if my arm were pointed this direction to get that same image, and I'm going to take a picture of that and just show you comparatively. Here we go with the gourd on this one. Double tap to zoom, double tap to zoom in again. I was moving a little bit, so it's a little bit blurry, sorry. But you'll find that you do not have that pinch and zoom. So like to see that added to the Genesis if possible. It's definitely a positive for the Prime, the fact that it's there as well. So both of these watches do great for pictures. Here's that always time display I was talking about. And you notice on the Genesis, you don't have the button to tap accidentally to take you out of it. As you saw, I just did there. Didn't really want to do that. Power save, cancel. There we go, back again. However, you can get out of this one if you double tap on the percentage. Hello? There we go. Just got to hit it just right. So that's what it looks like when you want to go into an always on display mode, and it will stay on for as long as the timing that you have set in the watch. After it goes out the first time, press it again. And now if you set it for 30 minutes, or using the floating toucher, you can set it for infinity. You can have the digital time on all the time. Really clear outdoors, pretty readable outdoors. Again, you can have the display brightness, and you can adjust the brightness to whatever you want when you have this display on, day or night, which you couldn't have on the always time display on the other watches. The last thing, neither one of them I would recommend swimming with or dunking in water. I'll tell you why. There's just too many places where you might get water intrusion. I think you've got some protection for the speaker holes, which are here on this one, and they're here on this one. You see that? However, yeah, they've tried to seal up as best they can the lines that come all the way out here and here. This takes they both look like they take a fancy tool to take the back cover off, because you're not supposed to go in there. The Prime may be a little bit more stable waterproof-wise, because you've got a screw to hold this big black back plate in with your optical sensors there. However, the counter to that is it's really big, and if it's got kind of a rubber grommet or something in there, if it isn't placed just right, you could easily get water intrusion here. Not so much steam or moisture, I guess, but definitely if you dunked it underwater, water could come in through that little hole there, just places that it could come in. This one uses a snap. It just snaps the thing in place like that. Pretty easy to come out. Now you can see my SIM card is in there. Without significant improvement to, for waterproofing with like rubber grommets and a really, really tight seal, you practically need a tool to pop it out. I would say this is less waterproof at all than the other ones. And because all this is happening on the bottom, where it makes contact with your arm, and if you tend to sweat when you're exercising, there is potential for water intrusion. It's just the basic fact. So both of them, I'd give a D minus in terms of waterproofing, but I don't have an alternative for you that's any better, really. All of them are not IP67 or 68 or 5 ATM, which is what you want to look for a swimming watch. So Android smartwatches just aren't there yet. But given the fact that they're packaged as best as they can be at the beginning of 2020, those are your limitations. So final thoughts. Final thoughts on this. Well, I'm kind of a godfather to this baby here. This is my partial creation along with Jason. The idea of the front-facing camera and the transflective screen for easy outdoor viewing. The camera over on the left-hand side for your face camera, so if you're wearing it on your left arm, you're not going to be covering the camera, just touching the watch. A lot of little subtleties in this. This is the one I want to wear. This is the one I do wear. I like the size of the screen being larger than the 1.3 inch. This is borderline for me. I'm feeling like I'm wearing a big watch. I mean, irregardless of, the fact that I really like having partially designed that one. Overall, this is getting a little large for me. If you're a big guy, this is great. Or if you have poor eyesight, this is great to have a larger screen. But this is that happy medium for me between that tiny little thing and that middle little thing and that big thing. So I would go with this one. I really love the packaging. I really love the 3 bands that it comes with. That charging dock, this thing is amazing. You can just set it on your arm. You can set this in it. You can strap the thing on you, and you literally can go about doing whatever you're doing and get a booster charge to the watch. It's a specialized dock. It won't work on any other watch. So that comes with the Genesis as part of the package. This comes in one configuration, 3 gigabytes, 32 gig. This comes in 2. You got the same in the Prime, but then there's a Prime SE, which is 1 gigabyte, 16 gigabytes of RAM or storage. So you can get it a little cheaper with a little less capacity in it. Also, this one's being cloned now. There's one I'll call the AWATCH GT from AllCall. that is this same 32 gigabyte configuration and a lower introductory price right now, lower than all of these. So if you're going for the cheapest price, you could pick that thing up, or you could get the lower 1 gigabyte, 16 gigabyte version of the Prime, or you could get the Prime, or you can get the Genesis with all of the benefits of the charging dock and the extra earphone case with the earphones in it that comes with it, and the 3 bands and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of possibilities here. Yeah, you could even go way back and pick up very inexpensively the Thor 4 Dual or this LOK02. If you are a lady, I would definitely go for this over these, or a really small-wristed person. We do have earlier devices that could fit your needs there. But in the showdown between the Genesis and the Prime, it's your call. I know, you wanted an answer. You wanted me to... No, it's your call, really. You now know the differences between the two. It's really up to you. They're both fantastic watches. Will you be using the camera? If so, and outdoors, the Genesis is great. If you like the larger screen, the bright AMOLED display, the Prime is fine. So, yeah, just let me know which one you choose. I'd like to see how it's going in the comments when you pick one. You've been watching us here, Smartwatch Ticks. Thank you for your interest and dedication to smartwatches. I can see your collection growing as we speak. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching, gang. Wow, KronosBlade, Genesis evolution of smartwatch. Yeah, okay. Here we go. Bubble wrap. More bubble wrap. Whoa, there it is. You can't even see it all on the camera. I think this must be that wireless earbud power bank thing. Yeah. Oh, sweet. That's in here. There's the watch. This looks like an what? I have 3 bands, man. Look at this. Black leather, brown leather. Awesome.